The first time, it fell out of a brand new deck still warm from the shop's plastic. A single card, face up on my kitchen tiles. A little painted tower split by lightning, 2 figures falling from the top, and a crown knocked off into the dark. My sister had given me the deck for my birthday. A joke gift, something to do at the table with wine. I'd cut it once, clumsily, and that one card slid off the top and turned itself over on the way down, so it landed looking straight up at me. I laughed, picked it up, slid it back into the pack. I didn't know I'd see that same tower twice more before the year was out, or that the third time, I'd finally stop laughing and type its name into my phone, the way you finally call the doctor about the thing you've been pretending not to feel. I want to be honest about the woman telling you this, because it matters. I was not a woman who believed in cards. I balanced the books for my husband's business, the one in the family who read the fine print and kept the receipts, who could tell you to the euro what a bad quarter had cost us. Signs and omens were for people who didn't want to do the math, so when the tower fell out of the birthday deck, I did the sensible thing. I explained it. A new deck is stiff. I'd cut it badly. Cards fall. My sister said, half joking, "You're supposed to look at which one," and I told her the cardboard didn't know my life, and we forgot about it over a second bottle. That's the first thing I need you to understand. I didn't ignore a warning because I was foolish. I ignored it because I was the sensible one. The sensible ones are the easiest to fool, because we're so proud of never being fooled. The second time was months later, at a friend's kitchen, the kind of night that starts with coffee and turns into the truth by the second cup. She'd taken up reading cards after her divorce. Nothing serious, she said. It made her feel the year had a shape. She offered to do me, and I let her the way you let a friend try a new haircut on you. To be kind, not because you want it. She laid out 3 cards, warm and slow, a gentle little story for each. And then, dealing the last one, she fumbled the deck. Cards went everywhere, and we both laughed and scooped them up. One had landed apart from the rest. Face up. On the floor, by my chair. The tower. Lightning, the falling figures, the crown thrown off into the dark. My friend went quiet in a way I didn't like. "That's twice you've told me about that card," she said. I told her it was a common card, any deck only has so many, that it meant nothing. But I'd lowered my voice to say it, the way you do near something sleeping. I went home that night and, for the first time, I didn't quite explain it away. I just decided not to think about it. There's a difference. Explaining is for the things you've beaten. Not thinking is for the things you're afraid of. After that, the deck lived in the sideboard drawer, under the good napkins, and I stopped touching it. My sister's joke gift, shut away. I'll swear to that in any court you like. So I have no sensible explanation for the morning I came down first, before the house woke, to start the coffee, and found a single card face up in the middle of the kitchen floor. The exact spot it had landed the first night. The oven clock said 14 minutes past 6. I remember the minute exactly, because I'd set an alarm to beat everyone downstairs and beaten it by 1, pleased with myself for as long as it took to look down. The tower. The drawer was shut. When I checked, heart going, the deck was inside it, wrapped, whole but for the one card on my floor. No window open. No cat, we have never had a cat. I know how it sounds. I'm telling you how it was, because the not thinking had run out, and something colder had taken its place. I picked it up. And this time I didn't put it back. This time I turned my phone over and typed 3 words into the search bar. What does it mean? And finally looked up the card that had spent a year trying to reach my floor. The internet is very calm about the tower. It doesn't dress it up. The tower, every source agreed, is the sudden and violent collapse of a structure built on a false foundation. Not bad luck. Not a death, not a curse. The specific ruin of something that looked solid and never was, a building raised on a lie, coming down all at once, in a single night, whether you are ready or not. And here is the part one didn't read on a screen. I read it in my own chest, standing in my kitchen at 14 minutes past 6, holding a piece of cardboard, because a structure built on a false foundation was not an idea in my life. It had a name and a logo on a van. It employed my husband, his brother, and 11 other people, and it was the reason we had the house, the cars, and the good napkins the deck had been hiding under. The business. I did the books for it. And that morning, before the coffee, for the first time in 9 years, I read our own numbers the way a stranger would. I knew every figure in those books. What I'd never once done was stand back and look at the shape they made together, because my husband handled the big picture, and the big picture was the one part of the marriage I was told, gently and often, was not my department. So I made it my department. 3 weeks of early mornings, before the house woke, the tower card propped against the sugar tin where I could see it. The business was not a business. It was a beautiful front on a debt that had rolled quietly forward for years. Every good month paid the interest on the last bad one. My husband hadn't lied to me, he was too clever for that, and the men in my life never seemed to need to lie. He had simply let the whole family believe that a thing which was sinking was only swimming somewhere we couldn't see. The house was mortgaged against the business. My name, I found, was on that loan. The cars were leased through it. It was all one structure, resting on a foundation that was not there. I understood, at my own kitchen table, that I hadn't been handed a curse in a birthday deck. I'd been handed a warning, 3 times, with increasing rudeness, by something patient enough to keep throwing the same card on my floor until the sensible woman finally read it. A curse you suffer. A warning you use. I decided, with the card watching, to be a woman who used it. I didn't warn them. I want to be honest about that too, because people expect the heroine to sound the alarm and save everyone in the building. I tried once, in the smallest way, asked him lightly, over dinner, whether we oughtn't get my name off the business loan, just to keep things tidy. He set down his fork, looked at me with real hurt, and asked why I'd pull my name out of the family right when things were about to turn the corner. They'd been about to turn the corner for 9 years. I knew that corner. I'd been paying for it. That was when I understood the coldest part of the card. When a structure is built on a lie, you cannot save it with the truth. The lie is the only thing holding it up. Pull it out and the whole thing comes down faster. The people inside don't want the warning. The warning is the enemy. They want you quiet and paying, right up until the night it falls. So I stopped trying to save the building. I've thought about it a great deal since, whether that made me a coward, or whether some warnings only give you time to save one person, and mean for it to be you. I got my name off the loan. It took a lawyer, and it cost me, and I did it quietly over 5 weeks, calling it paperwork for my father's estate. I opened an account in my own name. I moved what was truly mine, and only what was truly mine, beyond the reach of what was coming. I told no one. I simply stepped off the part of the floor I'd read the card on, and I waited. It came down in November, in a single week, exactly the way the card draws it. A lender called a loan. Once one moved, they all moved. That is the thing about a house of cards. The cards are the walls, and the walls are all that hold up the cards. The van with the logo was gone by Friday. His brother stopped speaking to him. The house went onto the market to pay what could be paid, and because my name had come off that loan in time, it was the one wall left standing that couldn't take me down with it. My husband was destroyed, and I don't say it with any triumph. I had loved him. Watching a man learn in 1 week that the big picture he'd guarded so jealously was a hole he'd been backing into, there is no revenge in it worth having. He asked me, near the end, how I'd known to protect myself, how I'd seen it when he lived inside it and hadn't. I told him the truth. I told him a card fell on the floor 3 times. He laughed at me. Of course he did. He was the sensible one now, the one who needed it not to be real, and told me I'd panicked over cardboard and gotten lucky. Maybe he's right. I've made my peace with never knowing. But there is one thing I have never told him, and never will. When the business failed, I had to go through all of it, every file, every date, to protect myself in what came after. That is how I found the email. The one from the main lender, the first domino, the internal note where they decided to pull the credit line. Everything that fell fell from that single message. It was time-stamped the morning the card was lying on my kitchen floor. 14 minutes past 6. The exact minute I'd been standing over it in my robe, pleased with myself for beating my own alarm. The foundation broke at the same minute the card did. I don't have a sensible explanation for that, and I've stopped reaching for one. Some things you file under the word coincidence and close the drawer. And some nights the drawer opens by itself and leaves a card on your floor. I live in a smaller place now. My name is on the lease, and on the account, and on nothing that can fall on me. It's quiet in a way I'm still getting used to, the particular quiet of a floor you own the whole of. I kept the deck. I know how that sounds, after everything. But it never frightened me. It was the only thing that whole year that told me the truth to my face, and I wasn't going to punish it for being right. A little while ago, on an ordinary evening, I took it out and shuffled it, properly this time, no whine, no joke. Cut it once, the way I had the very first night, and turned over the top card to ask the only question I had left. What comes next? It wasn't the tower. It was a woman kneeling at the edge of water under a sky full of stars, pouring from 2 cups, calm as anything, in no hurry at all. I looked at it a long time. And then I did the thing I'd learned the expensive way to do. I didn't look it up. I decided I'd rather find out by living it. The tower doesn't fall on you. It falls on where you used to stand. All a warning ever buys you is the chance to be somewhere else by the time it lands, and the only unforgivable thing is to be handed that chance 3 times, and stay. What sign kept coming back to you until you finally understood it, and were you right to listen? I read every story here. The best ones become episodes.